I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we go. 2 years ago, I was working for my parents' family business. They'd built it up over 20+ years. A mid-sized catering company that supplied events, weddings, and corporate gatherings. From the outside, it looked like a dream family operation. People would always say, "You're so lucky. Working for your family, job security for life." But the truth was messier. I didn't just work there. I ran entire parts of it. I was the one who set up their online ordering system, managed the digital advertising, and created connections with corporate clients that became our biggest contracts. I was putting in 60+ hour weeks, skipping weekends, answering emails at 2 a.m. because I believed I was investing in our family's future. But then, out of nowhere, I got fired. By my own parents. It wasn't because I messed up. It wasn't because business was struggling. It was because my parents wanted to save money. They told me, straight-faced, that since I was young and resilient, I'd be fine finding work somewhere else, while they needed to tighten the budget. The kicker? They didn't fire my cousin, who barely showed up on time and got caught sneaking booze from events, or my mom's best friend, who was head of customer relations, but spent most of her day gossiping on the phone. They fired me, their son. I remember sitting there in the office, the same one where I'd pulled countless all-nighters trying to rescue last-minute orders, listening to my mom say, "It's nothing personal, sweetie. We just can't afford you right now." And my dad nodding like this was some logical, rational business decision. I walked out numb. I didn't fight it. I didn't yell. I just left. At first, I thought maybe they'd call me back after a few weeks, once they realized how much I actually did. But the call never came. Instead, I found out they'd given half my responsibilities to my cousin and outsourced the rest to some cheap freelancer overseas. I was crushed. Not just because of the money, though losing that paycheck wrecked me, but because I felt betrayed. I had sacrificed years of my 20s for this business, and my own parents treated me like disposable labor. So I left. I found work at another catering company across town. I didn't tell my parents at first, but it turned out to be the best move of my life. My new boss appreciated my skills, gave me freedom to innovate, and within a year I'd helped grow their revenue by 40%. Now here's where it gets interesting. My parents' business is crumbling. The cousin quit, their contracts are dropping, and apparently they're drowning in debt. Last week, my mom actually called me, crying, asking if I could help out the family business again. And here's the thing, I could. I have the connections. I know how to fix their mess. But I don't know if I want to. So Reddit, here's my dilemma. Am I the asshole if I refuse to help the very people who fired me like I was nothing? After my mom's teary phone call, I honestly didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted to hang up right then and there. Another part of me, the stupid, loyal, still wants approval part, wanted to rush over and fix everything like I used to. But I didn't give her an answer. I just said, "I'll think about it," and hung up. That night I couldn't sleep. Memories of those late nights in the office. My dad's dismissive tone when I suggested new ideas. My mom's guilt-tripping comments about family sacrifice. It all came flooding back. They didn't think twice about firing me when it suited them. Why should I think twice now? But things got messy fast. Word traveled through the family grapevine that I'd been cold when Mom reached out. Suddenly, I had texts from my aunt, my uncle, even my grandma. Family comes first, you know? Your parents gave you everything. Now it's your turn to give back. Don't be selfish, they're struggling. Selfish. That word kept popping up. Meanwhile, nobody seemed to remember that my parents literally kicked me out of the business to save money. Then came the kicker, my dad showed up at my apartment. No warning. Just knocked on the door like we were going to have a friendly chat. He looked older, more stressed, but he still had that same tone. The one that made me feel like a kid no matter how old I got. He said, "Look, son, we made mistakes, but this is bigger than pride. The business is in trouble, and you're the only one who can fix it. Don't you want to keep our family legacy alive?" And I just stood there, floored. Because here's the thing. When they fired me, they didn't call it a mistake. They called it a business decision. Now, suddenly it's about family? About legacy? I asked him, point blank, "Why should I help you now, after you treated me like I was disposable?" And he didn't even flinch. He just said, "Because we're your parents." That was his entire argument. Not an apology. Not an acknowledgement of how badly they screwed me over. Just obligation. I told him I'd think about it, but the truth is, I don't see why I should. My current job is thriving, my boss actually values me, and for the first time in years I feel respected. Why should I throw myself back into the fire for people who never respected me in the first place? But now the guilt is eating at me. I'm not blind. If their business collapses, it's not just them. My mom's best friend, a few long-term employees who stuck it out, they'll all lose their jobs too. Do I punish everyone for my parents' choices? And yet, I can't shake the memory of sitting in that office when they told me I was too expensive for their budget. I keep asking myself, if I go back now, am I just teaching them that they can betray me and I'll still come running whenever they need me? So yeah, I'm torn. Do I let their business die, or do I swallow my pride and bail them out? Again, if I thought the guilt trips were bad before, part 3 of the circus was when things really exploded. The first person to officially take sides was my sister. She lives a few states away, doesn't really know the day-to-day of what went down, but after talking to my mom, she called me with this fake calm voice. You know, the one where someone pretends they're being reasonable but you can hear the judgment dripping from every word. She said, "I know you're hurt, but you're being dramatic. Mom and Dad didn't mean to fire you in a cruel way. They just had to make a tough choice. And now that they're struggling, don't you think it's your responsibility to step up? You've always been the smart one. You can't just stand by and let them drown." I asked her flat out if she even knew the details of why I got fired, or what I sacrificed to keep that business afloat. She admitted she didn't know everything, but then said the line that made my blood boil. "At the end of the day, family is family. You'll regret it forever if you don't help." Regret. That word stuck in my head. But regret goes both ways, doesn't it? Shouldn't my parents regret tossing me aside like garbage? Then came my cousin. The same cousin who replaced me for a while, the one who barely showed up to work on time and was caught more than once sneaking drinks at weddings. He actually had the audacity to text me, saying, "Yo, don't be a jerk. We're all counting on you to save the family business. Don't hold grudges, man. That's weak." Weak. He called me weak. This is the same guy who quit a few months later because it was too much work. The family group chat became unbearable. Every day, new messages popping up about how we all need to stick together and don't let pride destroy our legacy. I stopped opening it after a while because I could feel myself getting angrier with every ping. The only person who seemed to be on my side was my new boss. I vented to him one day after work, and he told me something that really hit hard. He said, "You don't owe anyone the destruction of your peace. Family or not, if they fired you once, they'll use you again. Be careful." That sentence has been replaying in my mind ever since. Because it's true. What's stopping them from pulling the same thing on me again if I step in and save them now? Meanwhile, my parents have started escalating their tactics. My mom called again, this time not crying but angry. She said, "Do you realize what you're doing to this family? People will lose their jobs. This business is everything your father and I built, and you're just going to watch it fall apart?" I stayed quiet because I didn't trust myself to speak without saying something cruel. She then added, "I can't believe you're this selfish after everything we've done for you." And there it was again. Selfish. That word keeps following me like a shadow. But is it selfish to finally put myself first, after years of being treated like an unpaid intern instead of a son? Or is it selfish of them to demand that I throw away my career, my sanity, and my pride to fix problems they created themselves? So yeah, Reddit, the family war is officially on. And I'm starting to wonder if refusing them will make me the villain in everyone else's eyes, even if deep down I know I'm right. If guilt-tripping me through phone calls and group chats wasn't enough, my parents decided to crank things up a notch. It started with my dad sending me a long email, not a casual one either, but a formal, businesslike letter. He wrote things like, "As your parents and as business owners, we're requesting your professional assistance in this critical time. He even outlined key responsibilities he expected me to take on if I came back, like I was some employee they could just hire on demand. What really pissed me off was one line. Of course, compensation will need to be deferred until the business is stable again, but we trust you'll understand that sacrifice is part of family duty. Translation: they wanted me to work for free. Again, I didn't even respond. I thought ignoring it might cool them down. Instead, it backfired. A week later, I got a call from my grandma, the matriarch of the family, the one nobody dares argue with. And of course, she was already primed with their version of events. She said, "I raised your father to believe family always comes first. I don't understand how I raised a grandson who would turn his back when his parents need him most. Do you want to be remembered as the child who abandoned us?" That one hit me right in the chest. Because I love my grandma. She's 84, fragile, and doesn't fully understand the dynamics of the business. She only hears what my parents tell her. And they painted me as the villain. I tried to explain, but she cut me off. They gave you everything. A roof over your head, food, education. You wouldn't even have your job now if not for the foundation they built. And now, when they're desperate, you're too proud? I had to end the call before I lost it. Because how do you argue with someone who sees this in such black and white terms? But it didn't stop there. A few days later, my sister texted me screenshots of my parents' Facebook posts. Public posts. They were vague, but everyone could tell what they meant. Sometimes the ones you raise turn their backs on you when you need them most. Sacrifice doesn't mean much in today's world. Sad. And of course, extended family members and family friends flooded the comments with sympathy. "You raised such wonderful kids. I can't believe one would do that." Or, "That's the problem with this younger generation. No loyalty." It was humiliating. My own parents were turning me into the villain in public, and I couldn't even defend myself without looking like I was airing dirty laundry. Then came the nuclear threat. My dad called me late at night and said, "If you won't help us, don't expect to be part of this family's future. Don't expect inheritance. Don't expect support when you need it. You'll be on your own." I almost laughed, because newsflash, I have been on my own ever since they fired me. But the way he said it, so cold, so transactional, it broke something in me. Because now I'm not just dealing with a business problem. I'm dealing with parents who see me as an asset to be exploited, not a son. So here I am, Reddit. My parents are blackmailing me with inheritance, shaming me publicly, and using my grandma as a pawn. Do I cave just to keep the peace? Or finally draw a line that can't be crossed? If this story was just about family guilt, maybe I could have found a way to keep things quiet. But now it's no longer just about helping out. It's about business. And business is war. See, my current company, the one I joined after getting fired, has been expanding aggressively. We recently started bidding on larger catering contracts, including corporate clients that used to belong to, you guessed it, my parents' business. I didn't go after them intentionally at first, but word spread fast in the industry that my parents' company was slipping. Late deliveries, sloppy service, and overpriced packages. Clients were looking for alternatives, and my new boss told me to leverage my contacts. Naturally, a lot of those contacts were ones I had originally brought in during my time at my parents' company. And here's the twist. Many of those clients told me straight up, "We only stuck around before because of you. Once you left, the quality went downhill." So contracts started flipping, quietly at first. A law firm, a tech startup, even a hospital chain that does weekly staff meals. My parents lost them. We gained them. When my dad found out, he exploded. He called me screaming, saying I was stealing from the family, that I was profiting off their downfall. I tried to remind him that these were relationships I had built in the first place, but he didn't want to hear it. He shouted, "You're stabbing us in the back," and hung up. The fallout was immediate. My phone lit up with texts from cousins, aunts, even old family friends. Some were nasty. "How could you betray your parents like this?" Others were passive-aggressive. "Guess money means more to you than family, huh?" Meanwhile, my boss pulled me aside one morning and asked if I was comfortable continuing to take these contracts. He said he didn't want to put me in a tough position. And I told him the truth. I didn't start this war. But if they're going to treat me like the enemy, then maybe I should be one. Felt liberating to say that out loud. But the guilt still eats at me at night. Because here's the thing. I could technically step in and save their company. I could rebuild their client base, fix their systems, and make them profitable again. I know exactly what needs to be done. But instead, I'm using that knowledge to grow a competitor. Every win for me feels like a loss for them. And even though they treated me like garbage, they're still my parents. It's not easy watching them drown, even if they're the ones who pushed me off the boat first. Now the narrative in the family isn't just that I refuse to help. It's that I'm actively destroying them. And honestly, maybe I am. So here's my question, Reddit. Am I just defending myself and thriving in spite of them? Or have I crossed a line into being the asshole who crushed his own parents' legacy? If the family group chat and phone calls weren't enough, they decided to corner me in person. It happened last weekend. My aunt texted me asking if I could come over for dinner at my grandma's place. She made it sound casual, like just a family get-together. Against my better judgment, I went. I thought maybe it would be nice to see my grandma without all the drama. I walked in and instantly felt the trap. My parents were there. My sister flew in. My cousin, the useless one, was sitting on the couch smirking like he had front-row tickets to a fight. Even my grandma, who looked nervous, was clearly in on it. An intervention. The moment I sat down, my mom launched in. No hello, no small talk. Just, we can't keep pretending this isn't happening. You need to stop working against us and come back to help the family business. I froze. My sister chimed in. This isn't just about mom and dad. Do you realize how many people are going to lose their jobs if you keep taking clients from them? I asked, calmly. And whose fault is it that they're losing those clients? Mine or theirs? My dad leaned forward, voice hard. Yours. You're exploiting insider knowledge. You're taking advantage of the very foundation we gave you. That's betrayal. And that's when something in me snapped. I said, betrayal? You fired me. You didn't just fire me, you humiliated me. You kept my lazy cousin. You paid your friends to sit around. And you tossed me aside because I was too expensive. Don't lecture me about betrayal. The room went silent for a second. My cousin muttered something about me being bitter. But my grandma quickly hushed him. Then my mom tried a new tactic, waterworks. She started crying, saying, I just don't understand how my own child can be so cold. We sacrificed everything for you. And now you're just watching us fall apart. I told her as gently as I could, you didn't sacrifice for me. You sacrificed me. And now you want me to fix your mistakes. That's when my dad dropped the real bomb. He said, if you walk away from this, don't ever come back to this family. Don't show up at Christmas. Don't come to your grandma's funeral. Don't expect to be part of us. Everyone gasped. Even my sister looked shocked. My grandma started crying, begging him to take it back. But he didn't. He just sat there, arms crossed, like he'd laid down the law. I stood up, shaking, and I said, then maybe I don't have a family anymore. And I walked out. I haven't answered a single call since. But the guilt, oh, the guilt is heavy. I keep thinking about my grandma, about the employees who'll lose jobs, about the fact that I might never be welcome at family gatherings again. But I also keep thinking about that night I got fired, about my dad nodding like it was just business, about my mom saying it was nothing personal. Now they want it to be personal. And I don't know if I can forgive that. So Reddit, am I the asshole for walking out and refusing to play their game? Even if it means losing my family for good? I thought walking out of that family intervention was the worst of it. I was wrong. Things went from emotional blackmail to legal threats faster than I could have imagined. A week later, I got a letter in the mail from a law firm I recognized. It was the same one my parents used for their contracts back when I worked with them. The letter accused me of unfair competition and misuse of proprietary client information. In plain English, they were threatening to sue me for stealing their clients. I sat there holding the letter, my hands shaking. On one level, I was furious. On another, I wasn't even surprised. My parents had made it clear that if I wasn't with them, I was the enemy. I showed the letter to my boss. He read it once, then laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was weak. He said, "They don't have a case. You built those relationships, not them. Clients have every right to leave a bad vendor. If they push this, it'll blow up in their faces." Still, the thought of being dragged through court by my own parents made me sick. It wasn't just about the money, it was the betrayal. Who does that to their own kid? Of course, my parents didn't stop at the legal threat. They doubled down on the smear campaign. More Facebook posts, more family gossip. My mom even called my ex-girlfriend, who she still keeps in touch with, and told her I'd gone greedy and was destroying everything we built. My ex texted me, confused, asking if I was okay. That's how far my parents were willing to go, dragging unrelated people into this. The legal letter made the family drama worse, too. My sister called, furious. She said, "Do you see what you're doing? You're tearing this family apart. Just drop it already and make peace." I told her, "They sent me a legal threat. How do I make peace with people who are literally trying to sue me?" She went quiet, then muttered something about me being too stubborn. Meanwhile, in the industry, word spread even faster. Clients started reaching out to me directly, saying they didn't want to deal with my parents' company anymore because of the drama. One even said, "If they treat their own son like this, how can we trust them to treat us fairly?" Irony at its finest. By trying to intimidate me, my parents only made themselves look worse. But here's the dilemma. My boss wants to capitalize on this momentum. He thinks we can acquire even more of their clients, maybe even buy them out if they go bankrupt. And part of me wants that. The revenge arc practically writes itself. But another part of me wonders if I'll hate myself afterward. It's one thing to refuse to help. It's another to be the reason my parents lose everything. So Reddit, am I the asshole if I let my company keep crushing theirs, knowing I could be the nail in the coffin of my parents' entire legacy? I thought walking out of that family intervention was the worst of it. I was wrong. Things went from emotional blackmail to legal threats faster than I could have imagined. A week later, I got a letter in the mail from a law firm I recognized. It was the same one my parents used for their contracts back when I worked with them. The letter accused me of unfair competition and misuse of proprietary client information. In plain English, they were threatening to sue me for stealing their clients. I sat there holding the letter, my hands shaking. On one level, I was furious. On another, I wasn't even surprised. My parents had made it clear that if I wasn't with them, I was the enemy. I showed the letter to my boss. He read it once, then laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was weak. He said, "They don't have a case. You built those relationships, not them. Clients have every right to leave a bad vendor. If they push this, it'll blow up in their faces." Still, the thought of being dragged through court by my own parents made me sick. It wasn't just about the money, it was the betrayal. Who does that to their own kid? Of course, my parents didn't stop at the legal threat. They doubled down on the smear campaign. More Facebook posts, more family gossip. My mom even called my ex-girlfriend, who she still keeps in touch with, and told her I'd gone greedy and was destroying everything we built. My ex texted me, confused, asking if I was okay. That's how far my parents were willing to go, dragging unrelated people into this. The legal letter made the family drama worse, too. My sister called, furious. She said, "Do you see what you're doing? You're tearing this family apart. Just drop it already and make peace." I told her, "They sent me a legal threat. How do I make peace with people who are literally trying to sue me?" She went quiet, then muttered something about me being too stubborn. Meanwhile, in the industry, word spread even faster. Clients started reaching out to me directly, saying they didn't want to deal with my parents' company anymore because of the drama. One even said, "If they treat their own son like this, how can we trust them to treat us fairly?" Irony at its finest. By trying to intimidate me, my parents only made themselves look worse. But here's the dilemma. My boss wants to capitalize on this momentum. He thinks we can acquire even more of their clients, maybe even buy them out if they go bankrupt. And part of me wants that. The revenge arc practically writes itself. But another part of me wonders if I'll hate myself afterward. It's one thing to refuse to help. It's another to be the reason my parents lose everything. So Reddit, am I the asshole if I let my company keep crushing theirs, knowing I could be the nail in the coffin of my parents' entire legacy? The legal letter didn't stop me, but it did accelerate my parents' downfall. Within a month, their business was visibly crumbling. Contracts kept slipping away, some to us, some to other competitors. I didn't even have to steal clients anymore. Word of mouth was doing all the work. People don't like drama, and my parents were serving it up in buckets. The real twist, though, came when their employees started reaching out to me. First, it was an old coworker, the head chef, someone who'd been with my parents for 15 years. He called me late one night, almost whispering, like he was scared of being overheard. He said, "Listen, kid, I don't know what's going on between you and your folks, but this ship is sinking fast. People aren't getting paid on time. Supplies are running out. We're drowning. And to be honest, a lot of us would rather work with you than watch this thing go down." I didn't even know how to respond. These were people I'd laughed with in the kitchen, people I'd pulled all-nighters with to fix last-minute disasters. And now they were looking at me like some kind of lifeboat. Then a server texted me. Then another. Before long, I had a dozen messages from employees basically begging me to bring them over to my new company. One even said, "We stayed loyal because we thought you might come back. But if you're not, there's no reason for us to sync with them." It broke me a little. Because here's the truth. My parents aren't the only ones who'd suffer if their business collapsed. These employees, people who stuck it out through thick and thin, would lose their livelihoods. Meanwhile, my parents kept doubling down. My dad left me a voicemail snarling, "You're a parasite. You're feeding off what we built. Don't think you'll get away with this." My mom texted me long paragraphs about forgiveness and family unity, but every word dripped with manipulation. And then came the bombshell. I heard from a mutual friend in the industry that my parents were behind on their loan payments. If they didn't stabilize within the next quarter, bankruptcy wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. My boss thinks this is the moment to strike. He's already suggesting we could absorb their staff, cherry-pick their equipment, and even make an offer to buy out their company name for pennies. From a business perspective, it's genius. From a personal perspective, it's the nuclear option. Because if I do this, I won't just be refusing to help. I'll be the executioner of their entire legacy. And yet, part of me wonders if they deserve it. They chose pride over me. They chose favoritism and short-term savings over my loyalty. They treated me like nothing. And now they want me to be their savior? So here's the dilemma. Reddit. Do I let their business die naturally? Or do I go all in and take over, knowing full well it'll destroy whatever tiny thread of family ties I still have left? It all came to a head last week. My parents requested, more like demanded, one last meeting. They said it was private, just the four of us, which immediately set off every alarm in my head. I almost didn't go, but I knew if I refused, they'd spin it as me being cold and unforgiving to the rest of the family. I walked into their office, the same one I'd spent years working in, the one where my ideas were dismissed, the one where they decided I was too expensive to keep around. My dad was pacing. My mom had tears in her eyes. My sister and cousin were hovering, pretending to be neutral. My dad started first. "Look, this has gone too far. You're destroying the family business and you're tearing this family apart. We made mistakes, we know that, but you can fix it. You can save us all." I stared at him. The man who fired me, who called me disposable, who threatened to cut me out of the family completely, now asking me to save everything. My voice was steady, but icy. "I didn't destroy anything. I moved on. You built a business that couldn't survive without me, and now you want me to fix it? That's not my problem." My mom jumped in, trying the guilt angle. "But we're your parents. Your family is falling apart. Don't you care about us?" I took a deep breath. "I do care. I care about your employees, about the people who actually worked hard and got shafted by your mistakes. That's why I've been trying to stay out of this until I can make a rational decision. But you You had years to get this right. You chose to fire me and push me away. Don't expect me to save you now because you're finally scared. My sister tried to mediate. Can't we at least find a compromise? I shook my head. There is no compromise here. I have a company to run. I have a life to protect. You chose to treat me like an asset, not a son. That's not coming back. Then my dad, in a last-ditch effort, dropped the ultimate manipulation. If you walk away, don't expect to ever see your grandma again. Don't expect forgiveness. Don't expect anything from this family. I looked at my grandma, sitting quietly with tears rolling down her cheeks. I love her, but I couldn't let emotion cloud my judgment. I said softly, "Grandma, I love you, but this isn't about love anymore. This is about respect. You can't demand loyalty after betrayal." I stood up, walked out, left them in that office, staring after me, mouths open, probably thinking I'd crumble. I haven't gone back. I haven't answered a single text. I haven't spoken to any of them outside of work-related calls, and even then only business necessities. And here I am, Reddit. The business I work for is thriving. My parents' company is bleeding clients and money, and I know I could save it. I know how, but I won't. Am I the asshole for letting them fall, knowing full well that I could step in and rescue them? It's been a few months since that final showdown, and things have settled in a way I didn't expect. My parents' business is still limping along. They've lost more clients than I can count, and some of the staff quietly left to work with me or other companies. Rumors say they might file for bankruptcy soon. My parents haven't called me since that day, not even to apologize. My sister occasionally texts trying to guilt me, but I don't respond. My grandma still checks in, quietly worried, but she understands now that I've drawn a line. Meanwhile, my life has improved in ways I couldn't have imagined while trapped in their business. My current company is growing faster than I ever dreamed, and the clients I helped bring in are thriving. I feel respected, appreciated, and most importantly, free. No more long nights being treated like disposable labor. No more fake praise while being underpaid and undervalued. And yet, there's a part of me that feels heavy with guilt. I can't lie about that. The employees who reached out, the family members who are still loyal to my parents, even my grandma, they're all affected. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far, if my refusal to step in has consequences I didn't intend. But then I remember the early years, the late nights fixing their mistakes, the times I was humiliated, dismissed, and ultimately fired like it was nothing. They asked me to sacrifice again, now that it was convenient for them, expecting that I'd forget all the pain they caused. And I realized this isn't about revenge. It's about self-respect. I've learned that loyalty isn't something you can demand. It isn't something that can be bought with tears or threats or guilt trips. It has to be earned. And they lost that right the day they decided I was expendable. So yes, I'm letting the business fail. Yes, I'm watching their empire crumble while I thrive elsewhere. And yes, I feel conflicted, but I also feel justified. Because I'm no longer a child. I'm not property to be used. I'm not a safety net for people who discarded me. Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to save the very people who raised me? The people who fired me, humiliated me, and then begged me to bail them out when it was convenient? I'd like to think I'm not. I'd like to think that finally, after years of being taken for granted, I have the right to choose myself. And if that makes me the villain in my family's story, then so be it. Because for the first time in my life, I'm telling myself that I matter too.